Blind Justice presents a hero and a city with secrets hidden by the cloak of night. What's Done in the Dark, the audio drama.
The morning light crept through the blinds, painting stripes on Daniel's face. He blinked, the events of the previous night still a hazy dream. Beside him, Isabella stirred, her dark hair a tangled mess on the pillow. She looked beautiful, peaceful. Daniel's chest ached. He had never felt so connected to someone, yet so deeply betrayed. He reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against hers. Isabella's eyes fluttered open, a sleepy smile gracing her lips. For a moment, the weight of their secrets lifted. There was just the warmth of her touch, the intimacy they had shared. Then reality crashed back, cold and unforgiving. Daniel pulled away, the need to distance himself a physical ache. He threw back the covers, his movements stiff and calculated. The familiar whir of his wheelchair motor filled the silence, a stark reminder of the life Isabella had plunged headfirst into. He maneuvered himself around the bed, each rotation of the wheels a testament to his fractured trust.
You're up early?
Isabella's voice was soft, laced with a hint of nervousness. She sat up in bed, the sheet falling away to reveal her bare shoulders. Daniel looked away, his throat suddenly tight. He couldn't bear to see the vulnerability in her eyes, the fear he knew must be lurking beneath the surface. Daniel couldn't sleep. His voice was rough, unused. He wheeled himself over to the window, gazing out at the city below. The morning rush was in full swing, cars like ants scurrying through concrete canyons. A world oblivious to the storm brewing in his apartment.
Daniel!
Isabella began, her voice barely a whisper. He could hear the unspoken question hanging in the air. Why? Why had she chosen him, chosen this life? He spun around, his eyes hard. Why, Isabella? Why involve yourself in this? You know the risks, the danger. You've seen what it's done to me, to all of us. Each word was a stone, heavy and unforgiving. Isabella rose from the bed, her movements graceful despite the tension in the room. She crossed the space between them, stopping a hair's breadth away. Her eyes, when she met his gaze, were filled with a desperate kind of hope.
I had to. They took my sister Daniel and her daughters. They were all I had left.
Her voice cracked, the pain in her words a tangible thing.
You and the Titans, you were the only ones who could help. You were the only one who would listen.
She reached out, her fingers brushing against his cheek.
I saw something in you that day in the cafe, Daniel. A light, and I knew somehow that you could help me bring them home.
Daniel looked into Isabella's eyes, searching for any hint of deceit. He saw only fear and a raw, desperate hope that mirrored his own. He knew the darkness that lurked within the Gene X project, the monsters it created. He had dedicated his life to fighting it, to protecting others from its insidious reach. But Isabella, she was different. He saw a flicker of the woman she used to be, the one who had stolen his heart, the woman who had believed in second chances, in redemption. I still don't understand how you could betray everything, everyone like that. The hurt was a dull ache in his chest, a constant reminder of her betrayal. Isabella lowered her gaze, her fingers twisting together nervously.
He promised me he could help find them, that if I cooperated, he would bring my sister and nieces back to me. I was desperate, Daniel. I didn't know where else to turn.
Daniel and Isabella had arrived at their location. The warehouse was cold, echoing with the ghosts of their past. He could almost hear the clang of metal, the whir of machinery, the screams of those who had been taken. The memories were a brand seared into his soul. And you thought selling us out was the answer? His voice was sharp, laced with the bitterness that clung to him like a shroud. He couldn't help the anger that flared, hot and consuming.
I never meant for any of you to get hurt. I thought I could. I don't know what I thought. I was foolish, naive.
He turned away, the weight of her betrayal crushing him. He had seen the darkness in the world, the way it could twist and corrupt even the purest of hearts. He had hoped, prayed, that Isabella was different.
Enough.
Dominic's voice, though quiet, commanded attention. He sat in the shadows, his sightless eyes seemingly focused on Daniel. Andre, Irving, and Christian stood behind him, their expressions unreadable. Daniel took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. He had gathered them here for a reason, and he couldn't afford to let his emotions get the better of him. They had a chance to fight back, to strike a blow against the darkness that threatened to consume them all.
This isn't about the past, this is about the future. About protecting innocent people from suffering the same fate as us.
He looked at each of his friends, his gaze lingering on Isabella. He wheeled himself forward, stopping in front of a makeshift workbench piled high with wires, circuits, and tools. "Mike," he called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. A figure emerged from the shadows, wiping grease from his hands. Mike, a stocky man with a bushy beard and keen eyes, offered a hesitant smile. He was a tech whiz, a genius with anything mechanical, and Daniel's oldest friend. Trustworthy, reliable, essential,
You guys must be the famous blind titans I've been seeing all across the news.
Mike said, his voice laced with a nervous chuckle. He glanced at Isabella, his gaze curious but not judgmental. He knew parts of their story, the parts Daniel could bear to share. "Mike, this is Isabella. She's the one who gave us the intel on Gene X." He didn't miss the way the others tensed, suspicion hardening their gazes. Mike simply nodded, his expression unreadable.
Good to have you on board, Isabella.
He turned back to his workbench, picking up a small, intricately crafted device.
Now let's see what we can do about leveling the playing field.
Mike gazed around the room.
Dominic, you're up first.
Daniel wheeled himself back, giving Mike space to work. Dominic, his blind eyes seemingly focused inward, stepped forward. His powers, telepathy and telekinesis, were formidable but limited. Until now. Mike handed him a sleek pair of sunglasses.
This amplifies your telekinetic field, allows you to control its direction, focus its power.
Dominic slipped on the sunglasses, closing his eyes. A moment later, his feet left the ground. He hovered, a look of awe on his face.
I can fly.
Daniel smiled. A rare sight these days. Not just fly, Dominic, soar. Andre was next. His regeneration abilities were extraordinary, but they came at a cost. Each injury, each healed wound, left him drained, vulnerable. Mike produced a pair of gloves, the leather embedded with glowing circuitry.
These regulate your cellular regeneration, accelerate healing and adaptation to your environment.
Andre put on the gloves, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He touched a nearby lamp, the heat intense, but instead of pain, a warmth spread through him. His hand shimmered, adapting to the heat, becoming almost fireproof.
Not just withstand, overcome. Incredible, I can withstand anything now.
It was time for the next Titan. Irving, his usual cocky grin replaced with a thoughtful frown, stepped forward. His ability to turn his skin to metal was powerful, but it made him slow, cumbersome. Mike handed him a belt, its buckle a complex array of wires and lights.
This enhances your metal form, increases density, amplifies strength.
Irving fastened the belt, a surge of power coursing through him. He effortlessly lifted a heavy forklift, something he could barely budge before. His grin returned, wider than ever.
Now we're talking.
Daniel nodded, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. Time to show them what we're truly capable of. There's a press conference today. Mayor Rashad is announcing something big, something that could put more innocent lives at risk. We need to be ready. We need to stop him. Christian, a blur of motion even when standing still, bounced on the balls of his feet. His super speed, once his only weapon, now crackled with a new kind of energy. Literally. Mike, a proud smile on his face, held up a pair of sneakers, thrumming with a visible current.
These regulate your bioelectric field, he explained, his voice edged with excitement. Amplified speed, focused energy discharge.
Christian laced the sneakers up, the air around him crackling with static. He moved like a phantom, a whisper of motion, before reappearing beside Dominic. A jolt of blue energy shot from his fingertips, striking a metal beam with a resounding clang.
Whoa, that's some serious juice.
Mike chuckled, his eyes twinkling. Daniel watched his team, his heart swelling with a mixture of pride and trepidation. They were strong, capable, ready. But was it enough? The Gene X project was vast, its tendrils reaching deep into the city's underbelly. He glanced down at his wheelchair, now more machine than man. Mike had outdone himself, transforming it into a weapon, a shield, a symbol. It was sleek, black as midnight. its surface humming with barely contained power. "And mine?" Daniel asked, his voice barely a whisper above the whirring of the chair's internal mechanisms. Mike smiled, his eyes filled with respect.
Yours, my friend, is something special. He tapped a key on a nearby laptop, the screen flickering to life with lines of code. Full system access, surveillance bypass, corporate espionage at your fingertips.
Daniel felt a surge of power, the digital world opening before him like a map. He could see everything, hear everything, the city's secrets laid bare, and at the heart of it all, Mayor Rashad. The press conference was in an hour. The air buzzed with anticipation, the news channels already broadcasting live from City Hall. Daniel could see Rashad, his face carefully neutral, his eyes cold and calculating. "He's hiding something," Daniel said, his voice tight with tension. "Something big, and I think it's connected to Gene X."
What is it? What's he planning?
Daniel took a deep breath, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "He's calling it Project New Dawn," he said, his voice grim. "A citywide initiative to enhance public safety."
Enhance public safety? That sounds like code for round up more test subjects.
Daniel nodded, his gut twisting with dread. He could see it now, the way Rashad's plan would unfold. The fear, the chaos, the innocent lives caught in the crossfire.
He's going to use some kind of device, something that can identify people with genetic anomalies.
A cold silence fell over the warehouse. They all knew what this meant. They were no longer just fighting for themselves, for Isabella's family. They were fighting for the soul of the city.
We have to stop him. We have to warn people.
Daniel looked at his team, his gaze lingering on each face. They were scared, uncertain, but their resolve burned bright. They were the Titans, and they would not stand idly by while their city was held hostage.
Then let's show them what happens when you underestimate the power of the people.